what's up? And hit that like button. Hit that fucking like button. So remember Eric Reid. Eric Reid, the safety, was really like the first player on the 49ers in 2016 to endorse Colin Kaepernick and the whole protest in the beginning. You can make an argument he's actually been more vocal than Kaepernick because that's been one of the issues people have with Cap's protests is that he doesn't talk enough. He's like the quiet storm, the quiet assassin, whatever. And Eric Reid was the one who was the mouthpiece behind that, and got into it with Malcolm Jenkins a couple years ago, and whatever called Stephen A. Smith a coon. Anyway, he excuse me, he told the Associated Press to yesterday that he hadn't received any offers or been invited or had any visits. Now it's still early; it's only week two. Injuries happen. I mean, just for example, Michael Thomas is hurt. Chris Godwin's in protocol, concussion protocol. Von Miller got hurt. A lot of people, it's the NFL. People are gonna get hurt. So maybe 2 years ago, the Carolina Panthers had signed him to a 3-year deal when he had to wait. It was like the end of week four by the time he finally got a offer or had any tryouts. He's 28 years old now. Last year, yeah, like I said, Eric Reid isn't a bad safety. He isn't great. He isn't Eric Berry in his prime or Rod Woodson or Earl Thomas, but he ain't a bad safety either. And I watched a lot of football this weekend, and it was some bad secondaries out there that could use an Eric Reid. He's 28 years old. He had 130 tackles last year, 4 sacks, 6 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, a forced fumble, and 2 fumble recoveries. And he pretty much broke the record books for every safety that's ever played with the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if that tells you how good he is or how bad, safeties have been for that team historically. Now, the crazy thing in me is in the NFL, if you just look around, like just the culture, if you're a really great player, they tolerate a lot of shit. They tolerated Antonio Brown as long as they could. He was one of the best receivers in the last 10 years. Recently, Earl Thomas, I didn't even know Earl Thomas was a head case like that, but the Ravens got rid of him because he was too much to deal with. But I could guarantee you Earl Thomas will get a phone call before Eric Reid will. And that's just based off him being a former All Pro, being a better player, being more talented, being a Super Bowl champion. And even though he's declining and he's not the same Earl Thomas he used to be, he's still better than Eric Reid. Now, coach the Washington football team, Ron Rivera, his former coach in Carolina, kind of gave him an endorsement and was like, "Hey," he says, and I quote, "I would tell him he's a heck of a teammate. He came in and the young man did exactly what he was asked of him. He was not an issue. He's a young man who's really truly helped me understand the entire movement and what's going on, and that's a heck of a young man. I'll tell you that much. That's sad when a minority like Ron Rivera has to be told about social issues. But anyway, he goes on and says, We're in a fortunate position where we have Landon Collins. Remember, Landon Collins came out Alabama a few years ago, top pick, played with the Giants. Wasn't really a bust, but wasn't what they thought he was going to be. He's with Washington now. And he says, because we got Landon Collins, Eric Reid doesn't fit here. Maybe if Landon was to get hurt, he'd probably pick him up, whatever. And then Eric Reid, showed the same mutual respect. He enjoyed playing for Rivera, things like that. But now Cap hasn't played, and since NFL's trying to, they call it either get woke or go broke because the NBA went woke and it hasn't worked for them. And the NFL is now trying to do this whole woke thing where they got Black Lives Matter spray painted in the field, and the Steelers had a banner about they hate racism. But yeah, Kaepernick still isn't in there. They put him in a video game in Madden, and then Roger Goodell went on and says, "I wish we had listened earlier, Cap, to what you were kneeling about and what you were trying to bring attention to. We had invited him several times to have a conversation, to have dialogue. I wish we'd had the benefit of that, but never did." Yeah, so apparently Roger Goodell says that they reached out to Kaepernick and he just didn't want to fuck with him, didn't want to talk. But this is why I don't take the NFL serious when they talk about they care about social injustice and stuff like, because you got a guy who, just for the simple fact that he's vocal about how he feels as a black man in his country and talking about social injustice, that he literally can't get a job. He's a healthy scratch. He had a damn good season, and there's safeties in this league who are horrible that could be replaced. But because this man was verbal, it's a problem. It's like you can't win either way. He's too verbal and he gets blacklisted possibly. Kaepernick isn't verbal enough to most people who criticize his movement, whether you believe it or not. That he doesn't talk enough. Eric Reid talks too much. So it's like you can't win. What is enough? You know. But I don't know. He'll probably get a gig, but who knows how long? Like I say, the last time it took him a whole month of a season to go by before he finally got a phone call from the Panthers. So who knows? And like I say, despite him breaking those records and having that great season he had, or good season, like I say, 130 tackles, 6 passes defended, 2 forced fumble recoveries, forced fumbles. Despite, and he had 4 sacks as a safety. You know, he had some good numbers that Derwin James and some of these current great safeties have, and he got released. They released him. So it's like, damn, the guy has his best season he's ever had, probably, and then he gets released, and here it is. The football season has started, and he still hasn't gotten a call. So I don't blame him for believing that he's been blacklisted. He's got a point. And like I say, I think Earl Thomas will probably get a phone call before Eric Reid, and that's a shame because Earl Thomas is, like I say, Eric Reid's never been arrested. He's never had any off the field issues. Last year they drug tested him randomly 10 times. I remember that story. They're trying to find their hardest way to try to get this guy and make him kind of like erase him from the NFL and get him out of here because he runs his mouth too much in their opinion, and they don't got time for that. But yet they want you to believe that they really care about social injustice. But your most vocal player over the last couple of years who speaks on these issues doesn't even have a fucking job. And I'm not even talking about Kaepernick. I'm talking Eric Reid. He's the most vocal one. So, like I say, if you're going to, walk it, talk it, whatever you're going to do, be about that shit. But don't run around pandering to black folks and all of this shit. It's going to be interesting to see if the NFL is still going to be using this whole platform to talk about black issues once the election is over. That's all I'll say. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. I'm out of here.